Thank you for tuning in to the Practical Preservation Podcast. Please take a moment to visit our website, practicalpreservationservices.com, for additional information and tips to help you restore your historical home. If you've not done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and also like us on Facebook. Welcome to the Practical Preservation Podcast, hosted by Danielle and Jonathan Kepperling. Kepperling Preservation Services is a family-owned business based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, dedicated to the preservation of our built architectural history for today's use as well as future generations. Our weekly podcast provides you with expert advice specific to the unique needs of renovating a historic home, educating by sharing our From the Trenches preservation knowledge and our guests' expertise, balancing modern needs while maintaining the historical significance, character, and beauty of your period home.
Today on the Practical Preservation Podcast, I have Bo Sullivan with me, owner and founder of Arcalus Period Design and Bolling and Company. Thank you for joining me, Bo.
Pleasure to be here.
So tell me about your background.
Sure. So I have kind of a unique story. It's almost like looking back, someone would have written it for me to become involved in preservation the way I have, but it just happened the way it happened. I grew up in a 200-year-old house in a 300-year-old town on the coast of North Carolina called Beaufort. Tiny little fishing village, forgotten by time. And my father was a scientist for Duke, and my mother was an antiques dealer. And so I got this unique combination of kind of a scientific mind steeped in antiques and history in an old town, growing up in this old house, and it just primed me for what I've done since. And what I've done since is I went to architecture school, got a design degree, and then spent some time doing carpentry on older houses, spent some time traveling and studying in Europe, and then moved out west to Oregon, where eventually I got a job with Rejuvenation House Parts, which some people may recall as formerly major source for folks who are trying to restore and maintain their old houses. That company's kind of moved in a different direction since then. And so I got an education growing up, I got an education in school, and then I got an education in my work life. And after I left Rejuvenation, I launched Arcalus Period Design as a consulting resource for people with old houses, and then got into wallpaper and launched Bolling and Company from there. So that's the story.
Yes, I think I shared with you when we were setting up the interview that my front porch light came from Rejuvenation.
It makes me very proud. I love traveling the country and seeing my children.
Yes. Yeah, I do, and I love their catalog. I love the snippets of people in the business and getting to know them.
Well, you probably remember the older catalogs.
Yes,
and
yes.
So that was part of what I did, was I wrote the catalogs.
Yes.
So we've met before,
Yes.
just through my writing.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So very, I did that. When I was actually reaching out, I didn't realize that was your background, so that's kind of exciting. So I think you kind of mentioned it, but do you have a reason why preservation specifically for your focus, or?
Sure. So preservation means a lot of different things to different people, and it operates at different scales. We can be talking about preservation at the state or national level,
Right.
Cities, neighborhoods, houses, rooms.
Mm-hmm.
The scale that I respond to and have pursued in my work is the scale of the house, and the house as part of a neighborhood, but the house being the focus. And my interest is both in the inside and the outside of the house. And primarily, it's a combination for me of a strong interest in all the little bits and pieces of the house. And this is part of what comes out of my experience with Rejuvenation. The doorknobs, the sash locks, the light fixtures.
The details.
Yeah, the details. How those details all come together to tell a particular story about a particular time. But I'm also really interested in the high level view of, what is an arts and crafts bungalow and how does it relate to the trends that were happening in the country at the time when it was built. And so I try to bring together this sort of yin and yang of the big picture, historical context, and the bits and pieces and how they come together, and the place they meet is in that house. And then what really excites me about the work is using that information to create a space that's beautiful and feels whole and authentic, and that people can connect to in a way that's both historically accurate, or at least historically resonant, I should say, but also meaningful to the way people live today.
I think that oftentimes period homes resonate with people, like you were saying, because I noticed there's a realtor commercial, and all the houses they show are vintage. Mm-hmm. They're not showing you an open floor plan. So there's definitely, they figured out that that's what people at least want to see in the commercial. So tell me about Arcalus period design.
Sure. So when I left Rejuvenation, I wanted to take advantage of the relationships that I built in the community and the knowledge that I gained through working there, as well as a certain aspect of the work that I'd done that I carried with me. And that was part of my role as the senior designer and historian for the company. Was over about 10 years or so, I built up a research archive for the business that consisted primarily of period trade catalogs and old books related to the building arts. And through those catalogs, I could literally step back in time to answer practically all questions about, what would my fireplace have looked like in 1920? And when I left the company, I still had a large portion of this archive, which was my own. And I wanted to use that as a tool to help people connect with and enhance their houses. So my consulting work draws on my architectural background and design experience, but it also draws on the resources that I've built up over time to help people explore not what we think things were like back in the day, but literally what they were shopping from, what they were choosing when they were building their house in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think that many people that aren't preservationists by trade realize that there are pattern books, even going back to colonial times, that you can find books that will show you what was there, so you don't have to guess.
Yeah, and for me at least, there's a real thrill to being able to identify something in someone's house, find it in an old catalog, and kind of close the loop of these things aren't arbitrary. They're real, and they were real to people at the time, and there's a story behind, even if it's just some obscure piece of hardware for technologies that we don't even use in the house anymore. Finding it in the catalog, and then with the wallpaper, being able to see it in an original sample book and discover that, hey, it was available in 4 different colorways.
Right.
And, I don't like this color, but I really love that color, and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, when you were talking about the trends, like that, connecting the trends to the details, that's one of the things that I try to point out to people. Like, the reason that the Victorian houses got so busy and so decorative was because they had the ability to mass produce.
Yep.
And some of those things that we maybe just take for granted now, or assume that they were doing by hand, and really they weren't. They were mass producing. So I think that those pattern books help to connect that. Yeah.
The other thing about the trade catalogs that I really like is often people who are facing their first opportunities to restore an old house can feel limited by the choices that they feel are available to them. And having a really nice, broad yet deep collection of period trade catalogs can help to show that there were actually lots of things going on.
Right.
You know, there wasn't only one kind of furniture for your bungalow. And within that range of stuff that people were choosing from, often a much wider range than
Right.
than even stuff that's available today, that there's something for everybody in there. And you can find the sofa that's going to be comfortable and also going to be, you know, right
It could be
for the look of
practical.
the
Yeah.
house. And
Yeah. It can be practical.
it helps to expand a sense of what's possible.
Are you for your consulting then? Do you just stay in the Portland area for your?
Primarily in the Portland area, yep. And then we've done some fun projects throughout the state. And when I can help people remotely, that's great too. And again, the resources help with that because we can communicate through visuals that can be shared
Right.
that don't involve having to necessarily be right there on the site.
Yeah, technology is great.
For sure, yeah.
So, what are some of the common mistakes that you see in project planning?
Well, we tend to see mistakes in the places we look for them. And so is on this sort of, it's on what I call the spell. So I'm not a big proponent of period perfect restoration. But what I do feel like the Holy Grail is an environment that feels somehow deeply connected to its past.
Right.
And when we make choices in the restoration process that potentially disrupt that resonance, what I call breaking the spell, those are the kinds of things that I hope to help people avoid when I'm working with them. And it might be, here's a great example. So many Victorian houses were built in an era before electricity.
Right.
And then later, the house got updated and all the light fixtures got changed, maybe in 1910. And so it's a beautiful Victorian house with 1910 light fixtures. And those fixtures are old and they're beautiful and they may even be super nice and fancy,
Right.
but they're disconnected from the language of the house at the time.
Right.
And those kinds of things, while they're perfectly fine, they miss an opportunity to build a bridge to a stronger narrative and a stronger kind of impact. So that's I don't know if that's a very direct answer to the question.
Well,
That's
no,
one way
I think that I think that it
see
is. I think
missed opportunities,
yeah.
we should maybe
Yeah.
say, rather than mistakes.
Yeah. No, and I think that sometimes people, when they're planning, they don't plan the whole project out. That's what I see a lot. And so then
Yes.
they have to do something over again because they didn't plan for the work that needed to be done.
That's the
Yeah.
short, easy, most correct answer to your question. Not planning ahead is probably the biggest mistake. That can happen because someone buys a house and they want to get started right away and they haven't had a chance to live in the house and kind
Yeah,
of
I
learn
think that
to,
people should live in it and kind of see how they're going to use the space before they do anything. That's what I always recommend. I know that's people want to not live through construction, and I don't blame them. But I think that that is usually the best way for everybody to have the most cohesive space.
yeah.
So I know I was on your website preparing for this, and you had there was an article, I guess, or not a post about your Page from History feature, and I thought that was very interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So a Page from History was a feature that I did in conjunction with Old House Journal. And I've done a couple of them, and my collaboration with Old House Journal and Arts and Crafts Homes. If your readers aren't subscribers, I encourage them to subscribe. Just fantastic, very heartfelt, very relevant discussions of restoration and preservation type topics. But what a Page from History was, and another feature called From the Archive in Arts and Crafts Homes, we would take an image drawn from my archive materials, hopefully color images, which I think people can relate
Right.
to more easily than the black and whites. And then we kind of deconstruct that image a little bit and talk about the things that we see in it. So, for instance, it might have been a company that sold drapery,
Mhm.
but in order to sell the drapery in their catalog, they would show room views.
Okay.
And in that room view, you would see a whole bunch of other things
Mhm.
going on that are really fun to dig into and talk about a little bit. It might be about how they used portable lamps in the room to spread light around. It might be how they chose colors for the rugs to relate to the carpets. It might
Right.
be the way the furniture all worked together, where they used wicker or where they used mission furniture. So each of these little single images can be a touchstone for drawing out all sorts of what I find to be interesting stories about the way people lived in and decorated their environment.
Yeah, I think that that's very interesting. I belong to a group on Facebook that's mid-20th century ads because
Yeah, yeah,
I just
oh,
like
yeah,
those.
right.
But once in a while, somebody will dig into like, what is this ad telling us? And it's always interesting. You always get people who just want to post the not politically correct ads just to get the controversy going. But there's so much to be seen from just like glimpses into into the past to get understand how people were living.
And there's a lot to misunderstand in that kind of
Yeah,
information too.
well,
I
that
mean,
too.
every manufacturer had an agenda
Oh, yeah.
in their catalog or in their ads. And of course, there are all layers of other types of
Right,
cultural dynamics that were going on that are either glossed over
right.
or certain parts of the dominant culture just assume were the way it was.
Yeah,
Servants, for
right.
instance, that really warrant some pretty fun
Yeah, yeah,
discussions.
yeah. So tell me about Bolling and Company. I know that I did get a tour
Mhm.
of your archives and your display and your production area. And I'm very impressed with it. But tell me about it. Tell me
Sure.
about how you
So,
came about that.
so Bolling and Company is a business that um, buys, sells, tweaks museum quality antique wallpapers. So not reproduction wallpapers, but the real, actual, original wallpapers. I got into it through my interest in trade catalogs. The first full-sized wallpaper sample book I ever bought was from 1904, and it just blew my socks off. I'd never seen anything like it. The colors, the patterns, the textures, just the visceral richness of these papers. They're not like papers today. And we have the opportunity to see so few original wallpapers in context that I think people carry around a lot of stereotypes about what wallpaper is and how it gets used that aren't really accurate and miss the really special parts of early early 20th century, late 19th century wallpapers in particular, where my interest is. And so what we did with Bolling Company was acquire original rolls of wallpaper that had never been used. There's often not enough to even do a wall, but it's too special to throw away. And we use those wallpapers to create mounted and framed heirloom quality wall decor. So you may not be able to handle a whole room of some crazy Victorian wallpaper, but 4 square feet of it is just enough
Yeah,
to.
yeah, and they are very beautiful. And I wanted to mention your screens too,
Oh
because
yeah, the
you
room
have
screens,
those,
room
yeah, you have
dividers.
those on the website, and I was they're just beautiful.
They're super
Yeah,
fun, and it was a historical pattern. So that's another one of these great things to dig into. Room dividers, when houses had lots of people living in them, not a lot of private space, and the kinds of activities that we take for granted in our big houses today couldn't really happen in private as well in these older houses. So room dividers played an important role for being able to, sometimes the sink would be in the room.
right.
You could divide that area off and hide it so you could change clothes or do whatever you need to do behind the divider. We've kind of lost the pattern language of room dividers in old houses, but they often were made using wallpaper. Yeah, and so it's a great way to reuse the original papers
Yeah.
and recapture that.
And you those are all of the wallpaper products are available on your website.
So many of our
Okay.
original papers are available, and we have many more that that circumstances have prevented us from getting online yet. But we have a very large inventory, and really the entry point for anyone who might be interested is to just kind of dive in. Wallpaper isn't for everyone. However, I do believe there is a wallpaper for everyone. Find the one you love. You can hate 99% of it, but that one paper that really sets your heart on fire, that's what we're there to help you find. And then when you find it, what can we do with it to bring it into your life in a way that you can look at it every day and get pleasure out of living with it.
It is definitely artwork. It's not. I don't think I could handle it on an entire wall, but yeah, in small sections, it's very beautiful. Yeah, and there's texture and depth and metallics. There's very
the metallics are really the part that we lose today in a lot of the new wallpapers that just made rooms come alive back in the day, especially under the kinds of lighting conditions that existed back then. Rooms felt really different under carbon filament bulbs or gas chandeliers than they do today, where we blast out the light in every corner of the space.
Yeah, that makes me think there's a room in Williamsburg that's lime green because of the candlelight. They needed to be able to reflect and get it bright enough. I think we were probably dealing with some of the same.
Yeah.
So, what challenges or trends do you see in preservation?
Great question. Well, I would say, oh boy, I can come up with a long list of them. One of the things that, so in my daily life, besides Arcalus and Bolling Company, I also work in the door and window replacement business for older houses. And one of the things that we struggle with here in Portland with doors and windows are the guidelines in place in historic districts. And I definitely have a foot in both worlds on this topic. I understand the importance and need to protect what's special about our old neighborhoods. And if people are going to invest in and maintain the houses in these old neighborhoods, which costs a lot of money to do, they really need and deserve to feel comfortable in those houses. And they need to live in a way that is relevant to the way we live today. So finding the right balance for windows in particular in older houses is tough. And the historic guidelines can be pretty restrictive in ways that I sometimes feel are actually counterproductive to the long-term preservation goals. If you make people hate their old house because it's such an ordeal to restore it, then they're going to go somewhere else, or they're just not going to do the work, and the house is going to suffer for it. So that's one challenge that I see. Certainly in the marketplace of restoration, what I call the eclectic trend, which has been a trend for some time. There was a period of time in the 90s and early 2000s when restoring is a strong word, when updating your house in a period sensitive way was like the gold standard. That was what everyone wanted to do. Eventually trends, move on, and tastes shifted to what I call the eclectic trend. And the goal there is to show how you're not a slave to your old house by all the different things that you can put in and do to it.
Like mixing and matching.
Sure, let's paint the house black. Let's put a real mix of furniture. And furniture is okay. Things that go out with you when you leave the house. Great, do whatever you like. That's your personal taste, and the next steward of the house is not going to have to deal with those things. But the permanent changes. I hate that tile on the fireplace, and I'm going to tear it out and put in, rusty steel or something cool. Those are permanent changes that are unfortunate and warrant a little more thought.
I agree with you. We have in Lancaster, we have some house flippers that drive me crazy. They keep putting fake shutters on houses that never had shutters, and they're not even real shutters. They're 2x6s,
Yeah.
and they're just gonna fall off and warp and do whatever a 2x6 does when you mount it on the side of a wall. In a couple of
We could do a
years.
whole podcast
Yeah.
on fake
Yeah,
shutters.
and then, and the other thing that they do is they'll take plaster off to expose the brick, and that drives me crazy
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
Because that's not ever how it was.
So that speaks to something that's quite common in the world of old house renovation, and that is people making choices based on what they think was old.
Right.
And the exposed brick is a classic example. Another example is that Victorian has to be fancy,
Right.
quote unquote fancy. I don't think it's done in bad faith.
No,
I think a lot of people just
they think it's
haven't had a
better.
chance
Yeah.
to be exposed
Yeah.
to what it was really like, and it can make for some pretty unfortunate decisions that are hard to reverse.
Yeah.
And
expensive to reverse. I mean that's
Yeah. Yeah.
if somebody comes in, I mean the shutters can come off pretty easy, but replastering the wall it gets expensive.
That's one of the things I learned in the door and window replacement business is that when someone makes a cheap, poorly informed decision at any point
Right.
in the history of a house, it becomes that much more difficult and that much more expensive to correct it later. It's so much better for everyone down the road if it can be done well the first time, and the hack job.
Yes.
It was cheap, saving money. But did you really do the house any favors?
Right. And we always say, if people, on average only live in their house for 7 years,
That's right.
you don't,
You never have
some
to deal with
people,
the consequences.
some people don't care what the next person has to do. So, is there anything else that you thought of while we were talking that maybe you want to share before we kind of wrap up?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is that it kind of goes back to the topic of people feeling limited in their choices for doing old houses. It's really challenging to find the freedom, the combination of knowledge and creativity that allows you to do an old house in a very inspired way while not feeling like you've had to give up part of yourself to do it. There are plenty of people who really enjoy subordinating themselves to the house, and they're not doing damage to the old house in that kind of relationship. But there is a tension between this desire to make your own mark on a house and respecting its character that is really only solved through working with people who are able to bring an informed historical creativity to a project. Those people are hard to find, and I wish that we had more of them out in the world, so that old houses don't become a series of unpleasant problems to solve, but rather really exciting opportunities to do fun things.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with you. I think that working with someone, I just was talking to a woman last week, and she said, "Oh, I wish I would have known about you when I was looking at, converting a warehouse." And she said, "Because everybody I talked to is overwhelmed." I said, "Well, it is overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing." I said, "So it's probably better you didn't get involved with the people who were overwhelmed."
Yeah, there is that's a double-edged sword for sure.
So, do you have any offers for our listeners? Anything you'd like to promote?
Oh, sure. So, one of my goals in life is to dispel stereotypes about wallpaper and really help people fall in love with incredible stuff that was available back in the day. So for anyone who wants to go to Bolling & Company, our website is bollingco.com, and explore our wallpapers. If there's something that they find there that they fall in love with, we're offering a 15% discount on any purchase over $100. You can use the code PP21 and And don't hesitate to engage us in a conversation about something that you find that you like, or something you find that you almost like but not quite. We may well have inventory here of other papers that aren't on the website. Anything we can do to build bridges from wallpaper to the hearts of folks today is
Yes.
something we'd love to see happen.
And how can our listeners contact you? I know you just gave the website. Is there,
Sure,
is
I
that the
can be
best way?
reached through my website, arcalus.com, arcalus.com, or through Bolling.
Oh, very good. Well, thank you so much for recording with me today. I enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, it's been a treat for me.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Preservation Podcast. The resources discussed during this episode are on our website at practicalpreservationservices.com/podcast. If you received value from this episode and know someone else that will get value from it as well, please share it with them. Join us next week for another episode of the Practical Preservation Podcast. For more information on restoring your historic home, visit practicalpreservationservices.com.